You ready?
I think so.
Hey! No, I fucked it up. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and people outside the binary. This is Less Stupid with Thomas Hiura, a show that's completely uncut, uncensored, and unurban right now as we sit here in Veneta, Oregon, talking to this wonderful person. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Justjoey. Or you could call me Joey. But Justjoey's the artist name, so remember that one, please.
Absolutely. And Joey is a newcomer to this Lane County scene of hip-hop, but is a long-standing artist, and we are so glad to have him here on the show.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I want to jump straight out the gate because I see that people only watch podcasts for a few minutes, and then unless you're really deep into some conversation, which is not how conversations work organically, they
Generally
click off,
not,
which
yeah.
I understand. So what's a controversial opinion that you have about anything?
Yeah, I was thinking I even had preparation. Thomas gave me some preparation to think, and
Literally
I still
just that one
don't really
question,
know.
and it was about 45 seconds ago, but yes.
Well, I guess I'll start with, I don't think that everybody who doesn't agree on every really progressive point is an alt-right Nazi.
There we go. I agree with that. Well, it's pretty amazing to see how we have fallen into the trap sometimes of binary thinking.
Yeah.
Of you are with me or you're against me. And I don't think there's a person alive today who built that infrastructure of like, you know, I am a liberal and I am a Republican and I am whatever. But we have all at some point been socialized into those ideas about who we are.
Yeah.
And so I think people should look deeply at like, okay, this is my friend who voted for a person I don't agree with and supports a policy that I don't agree with. Mm-hmm. Is it because that person is incessantly evil? It's probably more because they were socialized a little differently than me.
Right. It has a lot to do with family pressure as well. And I really don't like the idea of just painting people out to be monsters, because I feel like that's where a lot of the problems arise from. I mean,
yeah,
as progressives,
it's dehumanization.
Yeah, it is. And personally, like I did not have a very close relationship with my dad's side of the family, and they are very conservative. But I did make really big efforts right when I was getting out of high school, because going through high school without my dad was not working very well for me. And once I started making that relationship, it was like, this is right when everybody was saying, look, you got to cut people out of your lives who are conservative because they're not with the movement. And it's like,
Man.
dude, you don't realize what this is doing to me.
Right.
Like, I need my dad. Like,
yes.
So I think there's just a lot of hogwash in that idea.
Gosh,
you know?
It comes often from a virtuous place where it's like, hey man, how can you be friends with this person who doesn't agree with the fundamental humanity of this marginalized group or etc. But people should also realize, and I talk about this quite a bit, that when you push somebody out of your life, they don't disappear, they go somewhere else, you know. And so we should try really hard to convince and humanize and hopefully re-welcome people who have maybe been caught up in the intellectual dark web and they're, you know, susceptible to people pushing ideas that are frustrating,
right,
or that grind against the status quo. And
that's really poignant what you said, because I mean, let's take the worst case example. All right, let's say you have someone who murdered somebody and they took a plea bargain or something to where they're going to get out in whatever, 16, 20 years. I mean, I could be getting the numbers all wrong here.
Right.
But that person is going to be back out and your kids are going to be in their neighborhood or whatever. So if they do not rehabilitate and we really just like say these people are evil, let's push them aside, we're going to have to, they're still there, you know, we're still going to have to speak to them every day and see them at the store. And if we don't try our best to, you know, work with the fact that they're struggling to be a part of society, it's not going to be good, you know?
Dude, incarceration is the cancel culture of the right wing. Think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that we should. Okay, if somebody has talking about cancel culture, if somebody has a mega platform, there should be accountability for them to say things that are not evil, let's say.
Right.
But it's so quickly that I see people getting framed as not the villains that people want to frame them as.
Yeah.
And that's why that's literally happening in the criminal justice system.
It is. And it's scary.
And you mentioned before we started rolling how that's sort of impacted you directly.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Your family.
And we can get to that too. Just I just wanted to point out too, like before we dive into the whole cancel, I will say too, like two of the writers who changed my life. One, I heard you reference in a song, which was "You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train." That's Howard Zinn.
Yep.
So I mean, I grew up like right out of high school reading about people being oppressed, and that was like that really affected me. And
Sure.
I feel like that train of thought is kind of what sometimes pushes progressives into that state of mind where we can't even be friends with someone who disagrees, because it's this idea that you can't be neutral on a moving train, which I feel is kind of true, but also we need to give people some leeway to grow and change their minds, because I've never ever changed somebody's mind by calling them a piece of shit. Like that's just
Right.
never worked.
Yes.
But I have actually changed people's minds. Like there was one time, one of my childhood friends, we were at a party and it was on my birthday, and we started having like a friendly screaming match, basically, mostly because of the volume of the party. Like people were drinking around us, and
Sure.
we're sitting there having a discussion. This was before Donald Trump was elected, and we talked a few weeks later after that conversation, and he heard his dad like say a prayer for Donald Trump, and it weirded him out, and he texted me after that and said, I reconsidered, like I'm not going to vote for Trump anymore.
Wow.
It's the only time this ever happened. I've only changed one person's mind one time, but it was a discussion, and it wasn't just like a, dude, you suck, like what are you thinking, you're stupid. I mean, people, ignorance is like, you can't blame ignorance as much as you can with maliciousness. Like,
Right.
there's a big difference.
Right.
It's not a thin
Man.
line, I don't think.
I love what you just said, and I think that we often get caught up online with people will parrot this idea that, well, I'm never going to change your mind, and you're never going to change my mind,
Right.
so let's not talk. Let's not,
Yeah.
So we're done. Unfriend, block.
Yep.
I think you could have a conversation if you both make an intentional effort
Right.
to be like, hey, we are very different. Your family, your religion, your politics are different than mine. But let's maybe sit down and hear each other out really thoroughly.
Yeah.
But it's like another part of, I think, why that happens is that when you are on Facebook or Twitter, you're not just posting your opinion. You are, but you're also performing for your friends. So if you concede anything, if somebody's like, hey man, this thing you said about Bernie wasn't true and blah blah blah, then you might have your Bernie friends be like, why are you allowing this person to spout their opinion on your thing? And it's like, well, I actually am more than proud to allow people to have their opinions.
Right. I mean, it's an opportunity for that person to take in new information and assess it with their previous, whatever you call it, not brainwashing, but like a lot of people live in an echo chamber.
Right.
And that's just, I mean, to an extent, everybody does, because just the way algorithms work, what you focus on and what you give your attention to is what's going to pop up in your online feed, which is almost everything. Like a lot of people will wake up and that's the very first thing they do is check social media or their email or whatever. And I like made a conscious effort to stop that.
Yeah, I don't feel like my day started. I could be awake for an hour, but just kind of chilling, and I don't feel like my day's really started until I've launched the social media machine.
Right, and see what's going on and what are people talking about. Like yesterday, I mean, I got up and then I saw there was like an explosion in Houston, and it seemed like massive, and then that's like when I started feeling tied into everything, because before that I was just roofing 5 days a week and keeping to myself and kind of, thinking about what songs I have to make. Like I'm very, I like being disconnected, but you have to pay attention, I guess. You can't just like stay completely offline, especially because I'm trying to get somewhere. I want to be networking with people, which is a horrible term, I guess. Like really, I want to be finding who I should be building relationships with.
It's not a bad term.
But like I feel it's an essential part of my day to feel productive. If I've like communicated with people and have like made strides to get my music to do people, like just when you came, I don't know if you saw, but I had my Spotify open and I was like submitting to playlists. Like I'm always, any spare time I have is like pushing things a little bit further.
Nice.
It's always what I'm doing.
Right on. I was reminded of a story at some point just now about Andrew Yang, who was someone I really like, and that, he's one of these outsider candidates that neither party seems to have any control over. And that's what I see. And that's also true with other candidates, like I would say Bernie to a large extent.
Sure.
But even he, he paid $170,000 to be in his DNC Unity video. And some of his more, progressive, supporters were like, wait, why are you doing this? You don't need them.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. But with Yang, classic example
is the
of
rain
this.
Okay with
I
all
think
your...
it's fine. The rain's probably fine.
Okay.
It's classic example of the media creating this sort of outrage machine based on things that people weren't even really that upset about in real life.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. He was at a church, I believe it was in South Carolina, and it was an African-American church, and he was invited by members of the church to put on a choir gown, a robe, and sing and dance. And everybody seemed to appreciate that he did that. And he was the only person who wasn't a black woman in the church, in the choir, kind of vibing along. And this CNN writer, who happened to be white, wrote this piece. And the headline, which, by the way, headlines are incredibly fucked up nowadays, where they wrote this piece. We might have to migrate inside soon, honestly.
Yeah, it's getting a little...
Yeah, but... He said, Andrew Yang sang with a black choir. Not everyone said amen. And it's like you go into the article and it's like very few people who are upset that, the idea was that, okay, you're not a part of the church, so don't put on the robe. And you're not a part of this community, so don't participate.
But they leave out the invitation. They leave out the fact that he was asked.
And how many thousands, maybe millions of people see that and make their judgment about it without getting that story and getting that crucial context that it would have been rude for him to turn it down.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm like, okay, CNN, thank you for generating this feeling that I'm supposed to have that Andrew Yang is culturally appropriating these people when he's the only major candidate of color in the race still. And sure, it's opportunistic to campaign and go, and it's a difficult line to walk with the appropriation issue. I recognize that, but people just stirring shit up.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do anything right as a politician, I don't think. There's really nothing. I mean, there's some part of your life that will get thrown into the coals, and anything that will serve as fuel to get people outraged, or not even outraged, I guess, but just to show you that all politicians are shit. That's what will be in the headlines. And I think it was a CNN article too, just smearing Bernie about
they really don't like him.
They hate him so much. He's the only candidate that would surprise me if he actually was a piece of shit. Probably the only one that I could say now. Wow. I like Yang too. I don't know as much about him as Bernie, but everything I've seen I liked. I like that he addresses the fact that, hey, this is not an immigration issue, this is a technology issue. I like his addressing that, because that's worried me before too.
Sure.
Like when I was...
Well, who always gets scapegoated when there's large change that affects people negatively in a country? It's always immigrants.
In a country of immigrants.
Straight up.
It's always the immigrants' fault. And we're all immigrants. It makes no sense.
Except for the indigenous people.
Right.
But even if you go way back then, they came from... all Asia, of life originates in Africa.
Right, right. And then they were on the Bering Strait or whatever. They cross over when it's frozen.
Sure.
There's... Yeah. So, I mean... But here, while I forget what we're talking about, we can go back to the whole why my family is involved in the prison thing.
Sure.
Is about 6 years ago, my uncle was falsely accused of his crime that his ex-wife accused him of. And I
hate when that happens.
Yeah, it was
I've seen that happen in my own house too, but go on, sorry.
No worries. It was just kind of a really dark time. I got out of high school. I remember I was on a date with this girl who I had a crush in high school. I think I was 19 at the time, so I was really excited. And my mom called me while we were going to a coffee shop. And she was telling me that my uncle had gone to prison, explaining that his ex-wife had accused him. And then the girl like immediately wanted to go home because it was such a weird story. And she was like, "Oh, this must be really intense for you." And I was like, "No, it's fine. It's nothing big." But it actually was. It was probably good that she went home because it was just really weird. And then I ended up going to Texas where my uncle lived. My mom, my grandma, my grandpa, and I all went to Texas. We emptied his house. We sold all his things or saved what we could. Some of his friends took stuff in storage. And I mean, long story short, he ended up having to take a plea bargain because we put a ton of money down collectively as a family, like $40,000 for a lawyer who basically said, "Yeah, we're going to lose. So take a plea bargain." So it was either we take 2 life sentences for my uncle and, if we chose to fight the case and lost, it would be 2 life sentences. We'd never see him again.
Yeah.
Or he could take the plea, which was like 8 years, or 4 with a chance of parole. And he ended up getting the parole.
Which 8 years is a small portion of your life, but it's a huge day-to-day, like... I don't even want to make it sound like 8 years is a small portion of your life. It's vastly different from 2 life sentences, but that's how they get you. And the system eats people up. It does. It absolutely does.
And every day there's a cost. I mean, if you want to have a phone call for 5 minutes, that's $20.
Wow.
Every day, 5 minutes. They changed that.
For people on the outside to call into
it's the people on the inside gets charged, but the people on the outside are the ones sending them money on their account.
Sure.
Because they don't, his income stops, his job stops. Like, we had to sell his house, everything. He lost everything, And this was a crime we didn't get. And while we were in Texas, I'll say, we went around because they had a lot of mutual friends, obviously. And every single person we talked to was like, "Oh, yeah, he would never do anything like that." I mean, not even... So everyone in the family knew, yeah, this is ridiculous. And I mean...
Yeah.
There's so many steps now. Like, he took a lie detector test and passed it. That said he didn't do it. There was just...
Which are not always accurate, but...
Not always accurate, but then...
It does substantiate this case you're saying of yeah, this person literally didn't do this.
Right. And, I mean, there's a lot of other evidence. I don't want to get too into it to put it all on blast.
Yeah.
But it was like...
It's very public, and I intend to keep this up forever.
Yeah, sure. And, there was... Yeah, all sorts of stuff that just when you look at it all together, it's like, dude, there's no way he did this. Like, you'd have to be so foolish. Like, she basically has all of the proving to do, It's like there's
Burden of proof.
All of her witnesses and stuff, like some of them didn't want to testify, one of which was their own daughter. Like, it's just such a mess. And all of it is basically on the fact that it was an accusation that is now costing this entire side of the family so much money, and now we're all living in this house. Like, all of us are now, there's 5 people in this house. I'm staying on the couch.
Right.
My aunt has dementia, and she had a real fun night last night. She was out there just up rummaging through the cabinets and stuff looking for food. It's just, it costs us a lot,
Absolutely.
And that's just one side of the justice system, but...
Well,
it really...
can I add on the issue of false accusations?
Sure.
One of the things that people hopefully can understand if they look into these issues more is that what I've seen is that sometimes lawyers that you get, prosecutors, it's in their interest to line on your behalf, So even if a person does falsely, does have an issue where they go to a lawyer and they're like, "Yeah, I want to be protected from this person," or this person did this thing and I'm concerned about it. Many times they'll go to these lawyers who specialize in these issues, and they, have basically a checklist in their mind of okay, did he do this? Did he do this? Did he do this? Or anything akin to that. And then we can go ahead and lump that person in with all criminals who do this and all, and sometimes, I don't know this person who made this accusation, but I do know is that the whole situation devastated you and your family and continues to. Yeah. And that I deeply, deeply empathize with. Well, but I also want to say
I'll just say I'll say one of the biggest, the most frustrating parts about the whole thing is because we were talking about the media earlier and how things get spinned and how prosecutors are kind of using this because they have political futures in mind, and if they put people behind bars, then it helps their career. They
Kamala Harris,
exactly,
perfect example.
And so it kind of makes it to where I feel like on a day-to-day basis, I can't bring this up. I can't really talk about this to most people because most people don't even want to understand. They want to sweep it under the rug. So this whole thing that's impacting your life so much, and I'm not even the one who is involved. I'm just sort of on the outskirts of this. Like, I can't even imagine. My uncle, he can't talk about this anywhere he goes, but this has impacted his life so much. I mean, his entire life, he basically had to sweep under the rug and start anew. So, I mean, imagine if he didn't have family to help him out. It's just like, we are one of the luckiest situations. It's crazy. So,
I mean, his ex-wife was his family, you know, in that sense also. So, that's really challenging.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We could probably find a whole host of reasons to come back to this issue as we chat more, but
sure.
I would love to get to know, like, the musical side of you. We've never met today. This is like real journalism, by the way. This is my favorite thing about this is that, like, I might have a chat with, like, Crosby Neal, who you might have seen, and then I'd giggle with him for an hour and a half because we have, like, that bond. But you and I have never met each other. Yeah. And so I'm reporting in the field from this person's house, and I want to know...
just quick, too, shout out to Danny G. Because nice. Danny G is the one who linked us up. So, yeah, thanks, Danny. That's
amazing person. Check out Double Dragon, DUBLDRAGON, period.
I'm not going to lie. I spaced out as you started spelling, so I think you got it right. I'm just going to say you got it right. Yeah.
Well, Macro Forms on Spotify is an amazing album.
Which dropped on Milled Pavement Records, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I think so. And, I listened through, and I owe it another listen already, but it's really good. Danny G is a wizard on production, and Chad's a
skeptic.
Skeptic is one of the guys who got me one of my first shows in Berkeley too at the Gilman. So shout out to both of you guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love giving them the feeling. They'll probably hear this or watch this, since we shouted them out.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'll send it to them.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll let them know, hey, you're in this. So
I love when I listen to my friends who are independent artists and they have a podcast and they mention me like 45 minutes in, and I'm like, yeah, I caught that. So I like giving that experience to other people.
Yeah.
But let me also insult them to level it out.
Perfect.
Chad is... No, I can't think of anything.
You had a golden opportunity right there. And
there'll be plenty of chances to shit on them. As far as music, did you have a musical background growing up? Because I feel like for me, my dad always having guitars, he was kind of a guitar tech, and guitars all around the house. Like the formative years, the developmental years of being a human being, if you have music all around you, I think it's almost impossible to just grow up and be like, well, I'm not musical at all and I don't care about it, which some people are like.
Yeah.
Some people are like. I actually had a little disagreement with Lisa Vasquez. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I know of her. I don't know her personally. But
she's amazing as a musician and a person.
She lives up in Oregon? Or
I
do
believe she still lives in Portland.
Okay.
She might have. No, she just moved to California.
Okay.
Which, good for her. She was blowing up a lot. It kind of happens.
Yeah, congratulations, Lisa.
Yeah. Soundset and all sorts of contests. And so she was on tour in 2017 with Sammy Warmhands and I. And Sam and I were talking about, like, man, we probably love music. You and I probably love music more than like 90% of people because blah, blah, blah. I think that's what we said. And she was like, you guys think you love music more than 90% of people? I might be getting the figure wrong. And I was like, yeah, I think we do. I think, we're out here on the road. We're paving this trail between Montana and Minnesota to play these tiny shows because it's in our hearts. We can't not do it. We're so passionate about it. But she kind of felt like everybody likes music. Everybody appreciates music. And it was maybe a little uppity to think like, oh, we're these like hip independent artists, so we love this stuff, we bleed this stuff. But I do think there are a lot of people who don't care about music, and that's sad.
There's certainly some sort of middle ground, I think, in between there. I mean, when you explained it, I wouldn't have thought it was an uppity thing to say, but I guess I understand because I see both sides of it for sure. Because there are times where you are on the road and you're driving through Wyoming or something, and you're not sure if you're going to eat that night. Where you're like, dude, I got the dedication, like, so I think it's a little bit fair to say you might give a little bit more to music than the average person, but anybody can appreciate it. I remember reading a book called This Is Your Brain on Music, I think, and it was by a person who I can't remember his name, but it was a really good book. this guy was like a musician turned producer turned neuroscientist, and then he started studying the effects of music on people's brains.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, the whole thing is like music is within people for good reasons. Like it's part of our cooperative nature. I think that, it might be like one of the reasons that we all started forming communities, or like at least one of the early events that we all gathered around to play drums around the fire or whatever.
Sure.
And then it just has so many positive impacts on your brain if you play an instrument early, so I think that there is a pretty deep relationship between music and people, and a lot of other animals have it too. It's not just people, even though I read this article about like chimpanzees who will like dance to drums and stuff. It's more like rhythmic with them, I guess. They're more like they like percussion, but so maybe they like hip hop or something.
Nice.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, we have way more in common with the chimpanzees than a lot of people like to admit.
Yeah, we really do.
We are just animals, dude. We are absolutely mammals.
I think so too.
But I read a book, started to read a book. I don't often finish entire books unless they're really compelling.
Yeah?
There's just a lot out there to
You strike me as a person who would like finish a book front to back.
Well, I'm kind of an obsessive person, so that's totally true if I have a good reason to. But what I found is that I will voraciously read things by people I know. So I went to a college where I was lucky that, Bill Gates hooked me up with a shit pot of money, and I went to this small liberal arts college with all these kind of like borderline elitist hipster kids who are trying not to be elitist, but they are elitist.
Yeah.
And, like, that's essentially what happened. But the end result is I have a lot of great close relationships with professors who have written really cool books, and with peers who are writing books. And for me, I'm also a little bit of a socially awkward, shy, I need my own space kind of person at times. So it's like, podcasting is good. I can be on my own, but feel like I'm participating or hearing from a great conversation.
Yeah.
I can be reading and feel like I'm hearing great, because I'm very verbal. I'm hyper-verbal. But the whole point is there's this book called The Creative Brain that I didn't finish. It was when I was in medical treatment for mental health for a little bit. And it was by a person who I call a double doctor, because she had a PhD in something and a different doctoral degree in something else, like a freaking whiz person.
Okay. That's like next levels. There was a point in my life where I never understood, like, how could you work and go to school, and you're probably working two jobs if you're, I don't know. That whole just like ambition thing really baffled me for a very long time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, she was basically making the case that like people who have this proclivity towards being super creative, like their brains are just wired kind of differently. I wouldn't say better or worse. There was a whole chapter on basically the links between mental illness and creativity,
which everybody jokes about. Like it's kind of like synonymous almost. Like everywhere you look. I don't know how true this is, but my mom will joke about this sometime where like, all the best art was made by broken people is like, for better or worse, it's like, because here's where
desperation is it builds creativity.
It does. It builds creativity because you have, and then what I was going to say too, before I like tried to bullshit my way into making this conversation work.
It's a fucking podcast. Bullshit away.
Well, so you have to have a certain level of like, you're shameless basically. You don't care what people are going to think if you put this out into the world, because you don't really have that urge to put something out into the world unless if people are already talking about it, you don't have that urge. You don't need to create this thing. When you are making and creating when you're excited to release something and put it out into the world, and people are actually going to hear this, I'm going to perform it in front of the people. This is like really personal, and is very likely that it's an idea that people kind of generally understand but don't talk about. It's like just under the surface where people are kind of like scared to touch it. But I think that's a big part of art, and I feel like that level of where we're willing to make ourselves vulnerable and take that layer away from us and willing to look stupid, foolish, or whatever you call it. That's a big part of art, and it doesn't take a rational person or a normal person to do that. I think there's definitely, like you said, people have a different brain who are willing to do that. For it might not be better or worse, but it's different. And I've also, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you feel like creative people have a harder time fitting into society's mold than normal people?
Very likely, yes. And I am afraid to make sweeping generalizations, but absolutely, man. I have a friend who has Asperger's, and he was on my friend's podcast talking about what it's like for him to have Asperger's. And what he actually brought up that that kind of blew me away was self-DX, which means self-diagnosis. And he actually advocated for it as a positive thing. It's a little controversial in the psychological community because, I mean, you can't just tell me that you have this and this and this and this, and then that's treated with the same validity as a proper diagnosis. But there are so many barriers and differences in why people are able to access the kind of treatment that leads to a diagnosis, particularly young and when they're young, early in life. It can be very possible for a person to not have their symptoms show up until their mid-20s, or maybe in my case, frankly, like I exhibited tons of symptoms of what I think is probably something akin to Asperger's or autism, but here's some real racial stuff. My mom is Japanese, and there's still a much more massive stigma around any kind of mental health issues in Japan. And so none of that stuff got noticed and treated and taken care of because I had straight A's, because my obsessiveness was being channeled into,
something
kicking
positive.
Ass in everything and doing all the things and all the extracurriculars and the newspaper and the cross country and the tennis and the student government, 2 different chapters. And it's like, that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't healthy, but here's part of why mental illness is hard to talk about or promote better. Like mental health is harder to promote in society. It reveals all the things our society does that cause bad mental health. I think like that. Here's my example with Japan is like, Japanese people are going to have a really hard time, or that culture writ large is going to have a hard time accepting that mental health is a really serious thing that should be addressed and prioritized in our policy, because this work yourself to the death, be the most honorable and presentable person that your family will be proud of. All these different ideas are actually integral to the culture. So what do you do when you realize, shit, our whole culture is not built on everybody being happy, healthy, humane towards each other, and live an enjoyable life that allows for the world to thrive. It's more built on you're on your own, at least in the United States. You're on your own. Your wealth and your income define how valuable and important you are in the world. And if you experience depression, anxiety, mania, are triggered by PTSD, that's your weakness. I'm sorry, but you're weak. I completely disagree.
I do too. I think like every culture seems to have their own version of what should a person be. What should the basic person in this society look like or act like? What should they do? And I think about this type of thing a lot, where a lot of these things start out as I think about where things start a lot. Like the first dude who made fire, like sometimes I'll just think about, dude, how did that guy feel? Like, was he terrified, or was it probably wasn't even a guy.
Could have been a woman. I was
about to say, it wasn't a guy for sure. Like, let's be real. But so back to the whole, where do things start?
Yes.
Where did governments, start? Where did this whole idea that people should be working from 8 to 5 start? Where do it's just some person who had this idea that, this is what a person looks like. But that's not going to work for everybody. I mean, one of my mom's really good friends, like a really close family friend, I've known her for a very long time. She worked her way up from being a teacher, then she was, in the administration, and then she was a principal of this school, and she was part of getting this program into place where the kids learn how they learn best. I mean, I don't know exactly the ins and outs of it.
How dare they learn how they learn best?
Yeah, but and I've been taking a couple programming classes online, and there was a few that I just like soared through, but then there was one class in particular. It was so like, I had already learned this stuff too. It was like a class that it was a class I was basically retaking from another teacher. I had passed the first one with soaring colors, but this class made no sense to me whatsoever. Like the way they taught it, it just didn't click with my brain. They just want you, here, remember this, remember that. It's like,
Right.
Why? Why is it practical?
Right.
It didn't stick. Nothing resonated. And I think that is how I felt like when I was getting out of high school. I realized like, oh, there's no way that I can just go to college and then work a career that I don't really like. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do at 18. I hardly know what I want to do now. I'm still figuring that out. So there's so much pressure, I think, when we're so young to just fit a mold of what people want you to be rather than figure out how you learn best and how you can contribute to society best. And that's like a big problem for me.
There are two things I want to say about what you just said. One, I think there should be, in an ideal world, I'm not saying tomorrow or in even 5 years, free education until you're 25.
Yeah.
Come on. Mm-hmm. An 18-year-old is not an adult in the same way that a 40-year-old is.
No way.
Could hardly be more different. And it wasn't until I think the 1900s, 1910s that we decided in this country we were going to have universal free high school education. It's so easy for us to get caught up in the idea that, it's always been like this. We've always had until high school, but no. People had to fight for that, and I think people are fighting now for let's make public colleges tuition free, which I actually don't even know if I fully agree with because of all the challenges that go into it. And like, if you're going to make public colleges tuition free, for example, that's one part of it. Mm-hmm. But there are so many factors that make the cost of college huge that you have to cut in at all of those factors. One of them is the ballooning administrative portion of any university's budget is, and I don't hate these people. Well, many of them are great people, but you take this vice president, dean of students for this particular issue job, and you pay them, I don't know, whatever it is, 70, 80, 90,000, depending on the school. And it's like, that position didn't exist 20 years ago, and we got along generally just fine without it.
Yeah.
But it's also hard because many of those positions, what I'm thinking of it at now is actually like they do work that is important, like catering to or protecting like marginalized groups on campus. Mm-hmm. So I don't always know what the answer to it is, but my point is that like this idea that like, okay, when you're 18, you've got you're on your own and you should be able to, fend for yourself in the world. That's hard. I think there's people from age 19 to 30 who are just like, there's almost nothing that this society is doing for us. We have issues because you're not really considered youth anymore. Mm-hmm. It's an overlooked group of people. I'm part of it, so I'm biased, but it's an overlooked group of people. And especially with the rapidly changing technological state of the world. The iPhone came out in 2007. That's practically yesterday as far as I'm concerned. And now we do almost everything on our phones, and we go to places and we don't look at each other. We're built on this idea, these 18 to 30-year-olds, millennials, are expected by boomers broadly, right? I like boomers, to, fight for yourself and make it. When it's like, well, you guys had college for $100 a semester. It's
Fill
like
up your tank for 10 cents or whatever, 30 cents.
Yeah.
You could pay rent and for your insurance and everything off one job.
Yeah.
It's a very different world. And I definitely get your point too about the rising cost of college has to do with corruption sometimes. I mean, or not necessarily corruption, but it's like greed.
Oh yeah, higher ed is corrupt. Yeah. I'm unafraid to use that word. Well, speaking broadly,
I've never been to college. I've only taken some online classes, so I don't really know the ins and outs. But but I am familiar with corruption on like boards and stuff like that. I mean, Just I like landscape for this guy at one point who lived in a really nice country club, and he was telling me like one of the people on the board drove the country club into debt, which like lowered the cost, and then he ended up buying the country club or something. So like his failures lowered the price of this country club, which he then bought off of his failure and then fixed up or something. Like there's just so many loopholes in U.S. law that it's like the more corrupt and greedy you are, and the more you focus on those loopholes, the more successful you become. Almost,
Absolutely.
It's really like we encourage very bad behavior here. I think, and I think that also goes back into like the mold of a person. Like, who should you be? What are you looking for? That same guy taught his daughters to cheat in school because that's how you get ahead in life.
Right.
You know, it's American values are very weird and twisted.
Well, I cheated a little bit in high school.
Oh, I did too. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I look back on that and I'm like, yeah, that was not morally great, but I'm not really ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Because it was also not morally great for the entire system to be focused on whether I got an A- or a B+ or whatever. Like, we should be focused more on whether the kids are learning and developing and are going to be prepared for the world instead of like, gosh, but that's actually where the part of the frustrations I have with higher ed start is in high schools, where you are a 13 or 14-year-old, you come into your first year of high school, and now you're
everybody's telling you this is good, this is the rest of your life right here. Like, this is where all the pressure begins.
And part of the, we could get everybody to have a better, more relevant education for less money if we promoted trade schools and 2-year and 1-year technical programs and invested in those as a country. That's, I even want to almost walk back the idea that higher ed's corrupt, because everybody that I love, not everybody, but so many of my friends who are professors and who will be professors, and possibly me, I would love to be a professor someday, are in that system. But like, okay, why do we not have money for these technical programs, and why do we look down on them, and why do we not promote them in just as much esteem as, a 4-year liberal arts degree like I have, by the way? When, we have $131 billion that the Democrats and the Republicans just gave to Trump for more military operations,
which is probably going to be overthrowing some dictator, or not even.
They rolled that in when impeachment was the big news story that every media outlet was focused on around the clock. I pay, one of the few things I pay for, that's a subscription service, is XM Radio, because I've been temporarily living out of my vehicle, and it's just an amazing array of like things I can have on demand. So it's just pretty cool. But yeah, I check in on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News.
So you get lives from all sides of the...
And it's like, during that time when impeachment was like the number one thing, and it still is because we're on the Senate trial now, bro, like they didn't talk about... They very rarely. It's just funny that like that's the same time that they snuck in that like, we're gonna give Trump an incredibly huge amount of money that, if we took half of that, some figures say that it would cost about $65 billion, and we could eliminate homelessness. So half of the it's just not something the government wants to do.
Yeah, it's so weird. And I don't know.
Per year, $65 million a year. There are figures that show that you could essentially get rid of. You could house everybody who's unhoused.
Which, on a grand scale, like on a government scale, that's like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah,
like how many trillions are going to
the military budget is?
Yeah,
Dwight Eisenhower was in the 50s was a Republican. And he was a very well-respected military serviceman before he was the president.
Yeah.
And as he left office, he said, we really got to figure out this military-industrial complex and not let it take over. And then what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's...
And here's another challenging thing. You're getting me worked up. This is such a great conversation.
Yeah, I love it.
Gosh, again, you jump so quickly to like... Okay, that person's left based on this opinion. That person's right based on this opinion. You and I are like goofy bearded hipster looking people in Lane County, Oregon.
Yeah.
Who's going to watch this as a conservative? I hope there are conservatives that watch this and listen, but
I hope so too.
But I get it. Like we're, 45 minutes in. Like you're probably not here.
Yeah.
But if you are, like, I want people to recognize that, like, if a person goes into the military, the person is not necessarily evil.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that a lot of, well, actually, statistically, veterans are doing a little better than the general population. But
because they get healthcare and stuff, right?
Yeah, the VA has problems, but yeah, they there are benefits that exist, and I don't know, why that is that they're doing a little better generally.
Well, I know,
but I think that, like, people are like that's practically an oppressed group.
Yeah,
because, like, a lot of military recruiters are not fully honest, and they prey after people who, the educational system has already basically said, well, you're going to be a failure. You're not going to get a scholarship to go to this school. Are your friends going to respect you? No. So go to the military. It's
like earn your respect, basically. So when I was living in Wisconsin, my roommate and one of my good friends, like, his name is Billy. He goes by Uncle Terry. He raps as well. And he's the reason I moved out there. He was paying me to mix and master his music. My living situation in California was coming to a close, and then he basically said, "Do you want to just come here and not pay rent and keep mixing and mastering my music?"
Yeah.
Of course, I said sure. It was really hard though, because at the time I was dating this girl in San Jose. She ended up breaking up with me for it because, naturally, it was a good move by her. I'm not saying anything. But because I didn't know when I was going to come back. Like, it could have been 3 years. It could have been 3 days.
You're selling yourself short. You're like, man, she was lucky to get rid of me.
Basically, who would willingly sign up for, like, yeah, I don't know when he's coming back. It could be 10 years. It could be 2. It could be a couple days. But so it's definitely not blaming her for any of that. I do miss her, but It was well worth it. Like, I went there and got a ton of music done. But anyway, the whole reason I brought it up was because he is a veteran. He was in the Navy for 6 years.
Right on.
I stayed with him while he was in the Navy.
When I see veterans, I almost always say thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah.
Because they are doing something that's practically unimaginable for me.
That's another one. Like, when I was saying, like, that when that lady has 2 PhDs, I just don't understand it. Mostly because I do not do well in a school setting for the most part. Like, it's very hard for me to just follow directions blindly, and, like, which ties into military. Like, I can't do that either.
I would leave class a lot by senior year. I had a lot of clout in the school, so I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to go work on this auditorium stuff. Or, calculus was the biggest one. And honestly,
calculus, like, I could barely pronounce calculus. And then when I think about any equations that go into it, it's just get me out of there, dude. It's all imaginary. This is all made up. Like, just
BS. That's funny because it's so funny. I am so, like, resistant to being on one side of anything. It's also a very podcasting person to do. So it's like, be the devil's advocate or be a contrarian or whatever. But, like, calculus is actually, like, God, like, if we cared about it. Dude. No, it's actually amazing. It's fantastic.
I know.
Calculus is the study of, like, how fast things are and their rate of change. And that's, like, something we should know about more. Like, this is increasing at this rate. And then, the derivative has something to do with, okay, it's increasing, but is the rate at which it's increasing or decreasing? Like, those are, like, complicated things, and they're hard to understand. But, like, imagine if we decided that, we're going to really prioritize math education, which we probably should, because India and China are graduating more and more of our STEM doctors and engineers who, bless their heart, I'm glad they're here and working on issues for us, but we should also produce a lot more of our own doctors and engineers and mathematicians.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but I really think we could have a society where kids like math more. It's just not taught in a way that's very conducive to that.
Thank you, because what I was going to say is one of the teachers who made me regret not doing better in math was saying this should be taught like an art. Math should be taught like an art because you can get to the answer in a bunch of different ways. Not everybody has to get there the same way. And, I'm starting. So the 2 classes I'm taking right now are programming classes.
And one of the ways you could get there is by flipping to the back of the book.
Yes, exactly. And, taking a sneak peek at someone else's paper. But with programming, like, this is one good example where I really wish I had paid attention back in algebra, because all of that stuff that, I skated by on, now I have to relearn as a 26-year-old instead of a 16-year-old.
Right.
Or whatever, 14 I think is when I took algebra, or 13 even. I think I took it in 7th grade. So, and I basically,
that's good.
That's when I skated by. But that was like 7th grade. I was a really, really good student in elementary school and middle school, and then I just stopped caring right around middle school.
Right.
Like college reading level in 6th grade and everything, and then just C's to D's to F's, like as time went on. I just stopped caring more and more because I realized, like, dude, I am not going to fit into this system. But anyway, this goes to show you, just do it anyway, because now you're going to have to learn at some point,
Yeah.
Like, even now, like, I do 5 days a week. I got a roofing job to invest in the album that I made in Wisconsin, because I really love it. Like, I feel like it's next caliber for me. And
is that World Is Home?
World Is Home, I released a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
2019. That's not a while for me. My last shit came out in 2014.
I make so much music. I mean, for the longest time, I just like put off everything. I was couch surfing, and all I did was write songs. Like, the reason I was willing to go to Wisconsin was because this is just in me now. It's like, the way I vent basically is just writing a song, or it's like it's no different than taking a shower or eating a meal to me. It's like, I basically need this to feel good in my day. Otherwise, I feel like something's off. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm not gonna be there. Like, I need it. There's a need. Otherwise, I feel like my mental health just plummets. And that's no joke or anything like that. Like, I have struggled severely with anxiety and depression, especially since after high school. And I think a lot of it was because I had no idea what I was going to do,
right,
or where I'm going to end up.
It's an existential issue.
It really is. And it's like super stressful. It makes every single part of life more difficult when you have no certainty. And it feels like the entire world is just brick by brick falling apart around you. That's what it felt like to me for a really long time. And, so anyway, now I got this roofing job, and it's like I'm slowly starting to learn, and there's so much geometry involved. There's so much math in each part of it, because it's not just roofing, it's also general contracting. So it's like a lot of times I'm catching up with people who are just like, dude, like, how do you not know this? And it's like, oh yeah, I don't know. Just give me some time, man.
Right.
Like, shamefully, I put my head down and just shuffle, and so it's you'll need to know at some point. And then music, of course, is like all math. Like,
right.
There's
100%.
so much math in
That's
in
what I was
music.
going to say, because it's like, yes, we do have this misguided idea of like, oh, you're going to need to learn this for your job in the future, which a lot of people realize doesn't end up being true based on what they go into. But I would love to replace that in an ideal world, again, with, you're going to need this because it's the fundamental language of the entire world you live in.
Yes. Yeah. It's a really important piece of just existing. Like,
yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I was just working some shitty job that I didn't, or whatever, working at a coffee shop, running the register, and then I have to like bring out a calculator to do some basic math skills. It's like, dude, this is not good. Like,
right.
So, and this was right out of high school, where it's like, wow. And then you're talking to this person who thinks you're a complete idiot, who thinks you have nothing to, and that's probably the conservative person who is shitting on you, and you're shitting on them, who's like, this idiot doesn't know basic math skills. Our country's going down the drain. We got to make this country great again. Fuck these losers. Like, that's all probably part of it, is just, not having the basic building blocks of life in each person.
You know what sucks is, like, sometimes people who I disagree with strongly are right about things, and I do want America to be great again. But I would never say that because it's associated with a movement that I have too many qualms with.
Right.
And the flip side of that is we were never as great as we've liked to believe that we have been.
Exactly.
But I genuinely believe that, like, okay, 2015 to 2020 has not been as good as, let's say, it's hard to pinpoint a spot, but like 1997 to 2000. Okay. That was a pretty good time.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good time. Biggest thing we were concerned about was oral sex in the Oval Office.
Yeah. Which seems like a fantasy.
And of course
now,
the carceral state, and the oppression of a whole lot of people who didn't deserve to be. But yeah, it resonated, man, and there's a really good chance that our president will be reelected.
Yeah, that's what's scary.
And it's like at every point. That's why I'm so frustrated with the Democrats, because I've been a Democrat my whole life, and I feel like I've been proud to ever since the 2000 election. I was in 5th grade, and that's when I first was active. I wore a carry button to my school. Sorry, it was 2004 actually, was I was in 5th grade. 2000, I was aware of the election because my dad and my sister and I were talking about it, and I said I was going to vote for George Gore or Al Bush, but I didn't know which one. But in 2004, so I wore a Carrie Edwards button to school. And then 2008, I was in 8th grade when Obama got elected. I met him. It was very briefly, but I shook his hand in Eugene. So that was pretty cool. We visited in May.
That is pretty awesome.
But you get older and then you get informed by different perspectives. And I don't want to say they're just as evil as any other party, or the Republicans. But there are the same problems that operate in both parties that are really, really not actually helpful to our democracy. And if people think that I'm just being a hater, because I have lots of friends who are the Democratic establishment in Eugene, as far as I'm concerned. People need to recognize there is a Democratic establishment in Eugene and in Oregon.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many examples.
They're not exempt from critique.
From Obama saying he was going to get the troops out, and then he puts more troops in, ups the drone strikes, that was a Democrat. And then you have
the deporter-in-chief, Barack Obama.
And then you have Bill Clinton, who put in the NAFTA agreement, and that just screwed over indigenous farmers in Mexico and probably a bunch of other parts of the world.
And the USMCA is not going to be as much better as Trump would like us to believe, by the way.
So, it's the problems, like you said, they run rampant, and people had very, very valid reasons to not like Hillary and criticize her. And I completely understand. And I'll be honest, I'm not even registered to vote because at 18, I was scared of the draft. I never wanted to go to the military, and I still don't, because even then I was very I can't think of the word. I didn't trust the government then, really.
Right. Or I'm still considering going to the military.
I just, yeah. Well, I don't
trust
they
probably
what they
won't
fight
take me
for.
by the time I get to my 30s, or if
Maybe
they find
not.
out anything about what I believe.
Yeah. I just, I couldn't do it because I feel like I'm there for the wrong reasons, if anything. I don't know. I understand the people who go for healthcare though and stuff, and just money. That's kind of what my buddy did, which is just he needed healthcare, he needed dental, he needed money, and it was good pay and stuff. So, and then he signed up for the reserves, and now he works there. It's you get a lot of benefits from military. So I understand that part of it, but I just couldn't. There's a reason I dove so hard into music, which is because I operate on a belief system, which is the other side of the conservative thing, which is why I kind of understand why it's not so good to criticize, blindly at least. Because I know there's a lot of, I have flaws that I'm working on every day. And one of them is that belief, that blind, oh, I could just take this jump and things are going to work out. And I've been lucky with that sometimes, But now, I'm doing a roofing job 5 days a week, and I probably didn't have to do this if I just focused a little bit more when I was 18 or whatever, Because this is hard work. My body's broken by the end of each week, and this is my first full week was last week, and I'm just oh man, dude, I could have.
Good for you.
Well, thanks, man.
That you're doing that. I mean,
It's definitely I'm at a point now where I can't ignore the looming responsibility of real life. Now that I'm here with my family and stuff, and I see we don't know where money's going to be coming from all the time, so I'm kicking up some rent, and it feels really good to be able to give back to my family because they've supported me for over the years. Even when I was couch surfing, my mom would send me care packages of food and stuff, just super cool stuff.
That's awesome.
So it is, and I greatly appreciate that each day. And so now I'm giving back, and now I have
Nice.
And this goes back into the thing. At 18, man, I was ready to be homeless and just do the whole thing. And I was at certain points, and I was couch surfing all the time. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew that I couldn't fit into the system because I had to see things through first with my passions. I've said this for a very long time. I'd rather say, oh, well, than what if, because I'm haunted by decisions that I gave up or didn't see through, or I quit doing this, and that stuff gets to me, man. So I really I'm a person that now that I've taken that leap of faith. I went to Wisconsin.
Nice.
It went really well, but here I am still at square one where like, well, I got to worry about money and I got to have a, like I don't have a car still. I'm saving up for one. And so there's all these fundamentals that need to be taken care of that could have been taken care of before. But now that I'm 26 and I've seen through me as a person and how I operate.
We're the same age. Right on.
Yeah. Hey.
Cool.
Well, shit, man.
It just felt like you had more maturity than me somehow.
Wow, that's surprising.
But I think it's because I know how immature I am in my deep soul, Like, that's one thing I love to think about is we all know ourselves better than just about anybody else could know us.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, God, I'm still a freaking 17-year-old.
I feel the same way, too.
You said you'd rather say, oh, well, than what if. And it's similar to, there's a 1995 Red Hot Chili Peppers album called One Hot Minute, and it is very underrated because their guitarist couldn't handle fame, John Frusciante, so he left the group. This could be a decent segue into music, maybe, more into the musical inspirations that we have and our goals with music, but that was an album that Flea sang, quoting the Butthole Surfers. This is how I introduce shit. Anybody who watches my podcast, they probably hate me, but I'm still doing it. I can't just say something. I have to preface it 4 times. The Butthole Surfers said, it's better to regret something you did than something you didn't do.
I feel that to the core.
Everything the Butthole Surfers say. It's my mantra.
I've never listened to the Butthole Surfers, but I know of the name.
Have you heard their big single, Pepper?
I don't think so.
I don't mind the sun sometimes, the images it shows.
No, I haven't heard
you don't know that song, and I'm just an idiot singing in your front yard.
I sing all the time.
Me too.
In the shower, especially. I'm surprised you don't sing in the shower. That's if I didn't hear you belting it in there, so that's...
Oh, right.
Like
referring to the fact that I awkwardly asked if I could take a shower at your place before this interview.
I can't help, but if I'm in a shower, I'm either listening to a podcast or singing. Like that's but that's also my my private place is the bathroom because I sleep on the couch. So when I'm in there, it's like I'm so zoned in, and I love to sing and rap and stuff. So it's like, oh my God, dude, you can't stop me.
I've always loved sleeping on couches more than sleeping on beds. There's something about I put my arm over like the backrest, or I can lean into it, and a wall isn't soft. But and that's actually another thing where I'm like, do I have a little bit of autism? Because like in freshman year, first year of college, I had a roommate, and we had a nice room in Cassett Hall at Carleton College, but I could not find myself sleeping with him in the room very well, and so it didn't happen that often that I would sleep there. I would go out into the lobby, and there'd be no one there, 1 or 2 people in the late evening, and I'd be on my computer because I'm a late night person, and I would just accidentally fall asleep every night, like not intentionally, not intending to sleep in the lounge, not lobby.
Yeah,
but it would happen a lot. And I regret that because it's not really like a cool thing to do to the other people on the floor. But I didn't have the context to understand why I was doing that. But it was something about the couch and the comfort and the privacy, and domestic trauma was a big part of it. It's like I could not fall asleep with my roommate in the room. Like just,
oh wow,
it was weird. Yeah,
that's gotta be tough, man.
Oh, I'm a much different person now, I hope. But well, the reason I mentioned the autism thing is because there's a lot of like furniture stores that are catered specifically to people with special needs, and often it's like beanbag chairs where you can be really immersed and soft, and I don't know.
So you just got like a whole cocoon around you, kind of.
Yeah. But that's just what I liked about sleeping on couches. It's over an hour into the interview, and I want to finally talk about your album because I'm really good at helping people get exposure for their music.
Yeah.
World is Home is a project that you think came out a while ago, but it was 2019. So as far as I'm concerned, that is super Rotten Tomatoes fresh. That is fresh. And I love... It's hard to explain what I like about it. There's a real cohesiveness to it because you produce the whole thing, right? And it's like a collage of modern synthy sounds with your your vocal delivery is seems inspired by like Idea or maybe some other indie sort of rap artists. The poetic nature of your lyrics.
Definitely one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about your album. I'll just shut up.
No, I liked where you're going with it. It sounded good to me. Well, so yeah, like I said, I work on music all the time. I wasn't really planning on like using that group of songs as a group of songs. It just kind of happened that way. Like I had maybe 20 to 30 and I kept like fiddling around. Like I've been sitting on those songs for so long. I must have wrote them when I was, 19 or 20. I'm 26 now and it just got released in 2019. And mostly like I also mix and master my own stuff. So it took a long time to do that. And then it took a long time just to find that these songs go well together, which was really weird because, thank you. Because, I mean, they don't sound the same at all. Like, one is a very gritty track. One is, like, electronic. One is almost like an indie rock sort of song. One is like I don't even know. It's kind of all over the place. I didn't expect it to go well together, but that's kind of how I do things. Like, I would much prefer to just keep writing songs and then let, like, the periods of my life speak for themselves rather than to, like, here's a concept and I'm going to stick to this. I've tried both, and I just don't like putting myself in boxes.
Right.
Like if making music becomes a chore to me, it's just, that's when I don't know. I don't want it to stop being fun,
Yeah.
It's like, I could do that, and I kind of like the challenge sometimes, but I don't know. I just write songs until something seems cohesive, like you said, until it seems like, wow, this kind of goes together. I keep writing songs about not having a home. And here are these 6 that I like the most out of that theme. So here it is. Here's the EP.
It's awesome, man. One of the things that makes it hard for me to put out a project again is, first of all, I feel like I just went super gung-ho on the features and the collabs and making that last album from 2014, Ambition, like a really, really legit feeling experience. And so now I feel like I got to follow it up, but I got to get over that and just put out stuff that's going to be imperfect and it's going to be different. It's going to demonstrate growth or change.
That is so understandable too, because you had some killer features on there first, talking about that, but then you
shout them out. Shout the people out.
Okay, so I know Palmer Squares fucking killed it. That song was really good. I think it was track 4. I'm really
Elevator
bad with
music.
Remembering names.
That's the one I always send people.
Elevator music. It's elevator music. It's like elevator music.
Yeah.
It's it's really smooth.
I don't know your stuff well enough to sing hooks, but
but
World is Home. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. See, that's a perfect rendition. But no, I mean, like, when I was listening through to your album, it sounded like you were just going really technically hard. Like, all of the flows and chops were very... It sounds like they were carefully orchestrated. Like, I don't know if you were freestyling the format. You know what I'm talking about? Do you freestyle where the words are going to land, or do you kind of have that orchestrated before?
I don't... I have a very planned approach to stuff I record.
It sounds meticulous.
Yeah, exactly. Which is funny because here's my writing process. Sammy knows that I came up with some of those verses the night before, and some of the ones that I actually ended up feeling like those are some of the hardest tracks on the album. Like Eon was one I wrote I put together the night before because I didn't have a banger on the album. I didn't have anything. I was like, I didn't bar out on this record.
Is that the one with Task One?
No, that's Automatic Flow.
Okay,
which is an exception because that is a banger.
Yeah. They're both really hard.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And your stuff is better than mine as far as I'm concerned. It's amazing, but I'll just try to take the compliment. We're 2 Northwest rappers. We can't just keep doing this.
I know, it's like a Western standoff right here.
what was I trying to say with that? As soon as we bust this out, that's when the podcast has gone south.
Oh yeah, this is where no direction anymore.
Yeah, but we could talk a little bit about.
Well, you were talking about task
I was
one
saying
and
the writing process. All I want to say is I got a freaking note on my notes app that it's called Rapidy Rap, and any bar that I come up with, because as a musician, you can't go through life without writing melodies and like song ideas in your head, and if you have a little bit of schizophrenia like me, then that's literally what that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like that's what makes music awesome, is you turn those moments of insanity into moments of shared experience with people.
Yeah.
And like should tell them what your brain is doing and thinking. So like I'll just come up with like if I get a beat that I think is the right tempo, I'll just go through my notes app and just like put together couplets and just make a whole verse out of that. I've done that in a matter of an hour before for stuff. It's just based on when the moment strikes and having to meet a deadline, etc. But I want to talk about task one.
Okay. Before we get there,
sure.
when you talk about deadlines, are these things you set for yourself, or are you working on like time constraints because of classes, or is it like you're working with labels or what? Like so even smaller labels,
no labels, but like with that the last album, it was something I decided I couldn't produce and like engineer and mix and master this on my own. It was just not going to be the smart move for something I wanted to do as a commercial project. I had done 2 mixtapes in 2013 that I did on my own, where I was like, this sounds awesome and fun and cool, but then like 5 months later, I'm like, oh, this didn't sound good.
Yeah,
it just wasn't at the
it's
quality I wanted.
It's a horrible feeling
too,
right? Because you're so attached and you put so much time into it.
Yeah.
But, so anyway,
even then I kind of knew it was, but I don't know. Deadline is an interesting word because it's actually a bad word. Deadline is a stupid word,
and that's why I'm
How
wondering.
Is that a good word?
Is
I just think of that from an educator's perspective. Like, oh, this time period elapsed and you didn't turn in your essay. Well, now it's dead. The creative work that went into it is dead. The learning is dead.
All meaningless.
Like
really? No, that's not how it works. But and the reason I ask and make fun of it is because I did the same thing with almost all of my first few projects. It was all like, okay, I have these songs and I'm really excited, so I'm going to get it out. And then I announce a date, and then now I have to work from whatever. I give myself 2 weeks or something, and now I'm like scrambling to get this thing done. And it's like, why?
Right.
And and then just to tie this into your next release when it happens.
Sure.
What scared me with World is Home is like, for a very long time, all of my projects had it was ramped up. I used to go by Lucid Optics, which is why I changed my name.
Nice.
It's just so silly, and I came up with it when I was 16, and it's like,
cool name.
It's weird to introduce yourself at shows, though. It's like, I just wanted to go with something more personal. And one of my favorite artists, Chesky, I just asked him one day, like, hey, do you think it would be a bad idea to change my name? And then he shot me the idea, Justjoey, and here I am. So, but anyway, the whole ramping up thing scared me because it seemed like more success was coming from each album. Like I was getting more money, and not a whole lot ever, because I was mostly just putting it up on Bandcamp. I wasn't doing any streaming then, but it was like I would go from making $300 an album to the next one maybe like 500 or something. It's like, oh wow, word of mouth is going well. And then for Justjoey, like I feel like that's my best music. Even those 6 songs, probably my best songs I've released.
It's really cool.
Thank you. And but the reception was so much worse.
Really?
Mostly because it
was
wasn't
a rebranding
received.
issue, you think?
It just wasn't received. Like I think rebranding probably had a little bit to do with it, but also I think just the algorithms are getting tighter, and like even on because all of my links all of the pages are the same, just the links are different. So like the Facebook, I just changed the name from Lucid Optics to Justjoey. I didn't restart everything,
Right.
I didn't restart. So I have technically all the same reach,
I think there's a couple things that are happening. One, absolutely Facebook is shady and suppresses artists to try to get you to pay
100%,
into the system.
100%.
But also two is like the rebranding could be a challenge.
Also,
with people not knowing.
Be a factor. Yeah.
And with the flood of content that's out there, by necessity, people who are trying to sort through a lot of stuff, like I think the algorithms prioritize whether someone was excited to like click on your thing,
right,
and if they spent a lot of time looking at your thing, because it might not be fun to think about, but like every time you're scrolling through any social media, they're all tracking like how long you're looking at each post, whether or not you engage or swipe onward or go back and look at all those things are at play.
And there's
which
even
if you're
more.
An anxious person is like,
oh god, it's horrible. I've had full-on panic attacks.
Like, I don't want to like this post, but I will tap on the comment thing and then I'll leave and keep scrolling, so it's actually still an engagement thing. Like I've done that because I'm a little bit too insane.
I didn't know that was an engagement technically, because I'll do that. I'll just go through and like stuff because I'm like, whatever, like just help them out, even if I didn't like what they say really.
Right.
But the other two factors
or reacting to something with a non-like is better than any like can do. So like
the sad face or the
love react.
Yeah. I do that too, especially on stuff I like.
But I guess I was trying to defend that, like, it's not because your music isn't good. It's like everybody has to make content now that catches attention really quickly.
It does, yeah.
And so it's like it literally biases against people who have like a more long drawn out idea.
It does,
a slower burn.
And I really want to say too, because this is important for I think anybody starting out. Like, if you focus on your own platform first, you're going to be in a much better position than anybody who relied on someone else. Like, so the buddy I moved in with, the way we met was I submitted music to his YouTube channel, and then we just became friends from that. Like,
nice.
Kept in contact over the years, and then there I was living with him. But his YouTube page was popping for a really long time for underground hip hop. It was where I found like a lot of the music I listened to, from MF Doom to, like Aesop Rock to Sage Francis. Like, it was all around. He even had like old school fucking stuff I didn't listen to. I forget, but it's like it's like what started SoundCloud rap or trap or whatever. So he had all kinds of music on his page, and we at one point could post any song up there and it would get thousands of listens. Like the engagement was crazy. Like, nice. Way more likes, like maybe a few dislikes because everybody liked underground. It was very similar style. And when he started taking submissions, like a lot of us became friends, kept in contact, played shows, and then his channel died right around when he went to the Navy, and nobody would upload music anymore. And then over the course of a few years, like he still has 30,000 subscribers, but if you upload a video, it might get a few hundred. So, and that was my entire audience at the time, was his page. I didn't really set up a Facebook. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. So when his page died, that was it for me.
Right.
Like, I basically was starting from square one again. Some of those people will still come back and see that I'm making music.
Right.
So it's like, it wasn't all meaningless. And like when I play shows, when I was booking DIY tours, like I would run into some of those people in Idaho or like Colorado or something, people who knew me from that channel. So it wasn't all meaningless, but
sure,
if I would have started on my own and focusing on my own way to reach people before, I think it would have been way better. So if you're starting now, I think that's just like, it doesn't mean
that's
don't
cool.
Try and reach out for help, because all the help you can get is great, but also hone your own way to reach people, which is, people say mailing lists, or even have a phone extension or something, like whatever you want to do, however you want to reach your fans, think about that and start doing it.
Don't give Zuckerberg more control over your art than you have.
Yeah, even when I pay now, I reach less people. Like, even the payment algorithms have changed, it seems like.
Yes.
Because I used to be able to reach hundreds of people that way. Now it's like maybe 100.
I think if I put out a full-length album, few hundreds of people are going to get a DM, like a legitimate one-on-one, not even like I tagged you in a post or I group I'm just going to DM them, and
that's
it's like,
the way. I
hope they understand that, like, I'm not trying to be annoying and try to make it a little custom for each person,
Exactly.
But that is the way in terms of like, I mean, that's Messenger is almost like a text message now, and so it's like the very most kind of direct thing you can do.
It is. It's I mean, when I threw a lot of shows in San Jose and was playing my hand at booking for a while.
Nice.
And like anytime I had a show, even if I was on the bill, if I wasn't throwing it, all of my friends who has ever come to a show was getting a call from me. Like, and that was that was part of, like, I scheduled that into my day. Here's 3 hours or whatever. Like, a lot of times I'll spread it out so it's not a chore. Because I don't want to call my friends and be like, hey, dude, what's up? How you doing? Like, I want to call and be like, hey,
that's
man,
what Congress has to do for hours every day. Congress people is calling donors. And that's asking for money, not even asking for them to experience your art.
Oh, that's so hard. I couldn't do it. I mean, hats off to people who have to do that, because I don't have the personality. Like, it's really hard for me to fake the funk. I can't.
I'm glad, because you're one of the most, like, easy to get along with, like, personable, chipper people I've ever met. So, right on. Thanks for not faking it.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's so hard to live life
I give
if
compliments
you're faking.
during my podcast. Gosh dang it.
Yeah, it makes me feel good too. It makes me even more chipper.
I'm trying to uplift the world. You know what's beautiful about you, listener? Well, you know what is. I'm not going to give a fake compliment.
Yeah, that's true. You know, but deep just down, like, what makes you special.
Take like 5 seconds while I light this up and just reflect on what you like about yourself.
Think about your strengths and how can you apply them to what you want to do. Think about what you want to do. Like, first of all, what are you doing with your free time when you don't have a single responsibility, when you don't have anybody to answer to? What do you want to do? Like, and if it's just as simple as watching TV, start reviewing some shows or something, or just enjoy it. I don't know. I'm just trying to be inspirational here.
I would love to, because music reviewing as like an online video-based endeavor is in its infancy still. So, like, yeah. I mean, there's a guy who started doing it, Anthony Fantano, and he just was, this guy from Connecticut with a bachelor's degree who had some pretty well-informed ideas about music, I think. But a lot of hipsters don't like him. A lot of my hip friends think, because it's just easy to hate on a guy for that.
I think so too.
Yeah. But he's like the lone person who's a really, really well-known person doing it. And then there's a lot of other YouTubers who have a fraction of his reach and are doing cool content, like Sean C., Big Quint, something TV Productions. I don't know. there are a lot of people out there that I kind of enjoy, but I'm like, I would love to get in that lane. Part of why you're talking about building your own platforms. I started this podcast at episode 151 because I've created a lot of video and audio content in the past since I was a kid. It goes back to like 2006, and now I'm just renaming that stuff episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if anybody gets really into this, which I expect to be 1 or 2 people at most, they can come through and see that this is building off of and formalizing a long history of creative work, and it's also just like it. I think it's going to help me to be like, okay, I'm on 159, I'm on 160, instead of being like, I'm on number 9. Yeah. I'm on number 10.
That's, oh man, the effects of like psychologically hacking yourself is so powerful. Like, that's such a good tool in life, and it's so weird that we can do that.
Yes.
We can just kind of trick our brains into being more productive and enjoying the environment more. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's so strange. Like, the more you learn about yourself, the better your life can be. Mm-hmm.
You know what I like to ask my hip hop friends who are on the show?
What's up?
Who are some of the gods to you? I'm not saying who is the top 5 or who is the number 1, especially because hip hop's so regional too. I think we kind of forget that sometimes.
Yeah. It definitely is. Even. All right, so yeah, there's a lot to unpack there for me. I think,
or at least who inspired you a lot. Like, who did you?
That's where my mind was going. And we talked about Idea already, and Idea was one of the people who really got me into hip hop.
Amazing person.
I never met him, but I know people who do, and I just hear amazing things about him. But I mean, he's one of those people where I feel like you just know him from his songs, which I think is always an unfair thing to say about artists anyway, but I still feel that way. I can't help it about some people, and he's one of them. It goes back to, if you're as vulnerable as you can be, and you just let people, like, you really clean that window into who you are in your music or whatever format your art is in, medium or whatever it is.
Sure.
Then you're going to do more for at least, it might be a few people, it might be less people than like a pop artist, but you're gonna do more for the people who listen to you than any sort of pop song where it's like very surface level. Like, what do we all like?
Diss Katy Perry?
What do we all like here? Like, what can we all get behind? I'm not even dissing. Like, it's
I'm
not.
fucking with you. I like Katy Perry a lot, but I love a lot of mainstream pop.
Yeah,
I really
me too.
do.
And there's a place for it. And I think it goes back to like why you can't really. It's hard to hate people because at the end of the day we're all people and there are things that are going to connect us all, and it matters like how we feel about each other, I think. So I think pop is really important.
Well, I actually kind of think this connects a little bit to our very early conversation, the first question, the controversial opinion about like people that you disagree with are all blank. Part of what endears me to mainstream pop artists is, growing up in Eugene, a very countercultural place, and being around a lot of people who are hip, and that's cool. Like, anybody who I'm told not to like, I'm probably going to be a little more endeared to them, and I'm going to want to know their humanity. So, like, knowing what Taylor Swift is like as a person, or trying to.
And I think even if you're not open to that, you're only getting that person more publicity too, because then some people... Then you're interested because you're scared, because this is how I was when I was younger. I was interested in what I was told not to like because part of me like maybe feared, how do you become a person who people don't like? Like, what path did you take? Like, what can I learn about you? It only brings attention to what you are trying to get people to stay away from if you're just out there ridiculing it. I don't know.
That's very true nowadays. I mean, there's always been the case that all news is good news for people who are trying to be a public figure.
Yeah.
All right, so let me say something really terrible and provocative just for attention.
Okay.
These socks look gay. No, they really don't. Why did I do that? Damn it. See, I run an unedited show too. I really can't take that out. Well, I'll apologize immediately. As a person who identifies as queer, these are actually very blue, and I was totally searching around to just try to be the parody of a podcast
and it
host.
matches my jacket like perfectly. Both tones of blue.
Yeah. I think satire is just going to continue to win, dude. Satire is winning.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll like go in and out of like being... I am sincere, but like sometimes people can't tell when I'm being sarcastic.
No, totally.
Because the very best way to get someone to just look at something is to parody it and to even if it's like especially really subtle satire, I think is like really going to continue to win, because you get the people that think it's legit. Because Stephen Colbert, for example, he satirized Bill O'Reilly, etc.
Yeah.
But like he did it in a way, it was only the left who thought like, that they really liked it because it was such a funny parody of what he was doing. He didn't do it in a subtle way to try to like get people who, are conservative to believe in his like ultra patriotism idea. Yeah. But I guess I don't know. It
gives room.
I try to be tongue in cheek. Like I'm sincerely interviewing you, but I'm also right now being an asshole podcast interviewer who can't shut up. But really, I'm just trying to. No, sorry.
It also gives room for people who like. That's their whole persona. There's this whole thing going around where this girl, I think she's in college, is going around and interviewing people on campus about like. Transgender bathrooms and inclusive bathrooms and stuff, and like at first it seems like she was being an asshole, but then some people are bringing up the point where like, hey, maybe she's just trolling and nobody can really tell, and now there's like debate running around it. I have no idea, I haven't really watched the videos, but it's just kind of interesting that that can be, I don't know, a little troubling almost, because it just adds to the fact that nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's real. Like nobody knows where to get information because all the news outlets are bullshit. So where do I get, where's,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, you're allowed to talk about that. I'm all about more dialogue in more places. I identify as non-binary, and I'm going to come out as trans right now, in that it totally, like, all these words and phrases and identities, they mean different things to different people based on their lived experience and what they know. And so, like, a lot of people would say if I'm non-binary, which I've been openly non-binary for a while now, for a few years, I would say, in different spaces, that is under the trans umbrella. right?
Okay.
Non-binary is a part of being trans in the eyes of some people, but for some people it's not, because trans is specifically about going from the gender you were assigned at birth to the opposite of the two. And, you know, it's like sometimes people can get really in the weeds about like, are you a trans person or not? And the more time we spend on that kind of really thinly splitting people into more and more different groups, I don't know that it's the best thing we could be doing with our time when there's a lot of people who still don't recognize any trans people as human beings at all.
Right.
I just think we're all confused.
Yeah.
Or sinners. I don't know.
I like to say, first of all, I'm honored that
that was part of this historic moment, which
really,
it shouldn't be.
I know.
And in 20 years, I might label myself a different way than non-binary or part of the trans community.
Yeah.
But right now, it's been really liberating.
Well, that's awesome.
Swag.
Fuck yeah. That would be, I don't know.
But I'm trying to trace it back to what we were talking about. It's like,
yeah, now we're getting stoned. I like keep losing. I'm like, this is where I really start bullshitting. Like,
yeah,
how to tie things together.
We've been doing that a little bit.
We were good about it, though, I think. You know?
Oh, here's an idea to jump off of. You know, if you're just talking about how you're upset about these people and it's actually amplifying them. You know, great example would be Kanye West when he, being pretty much a promotional genius, expressed what I think are authentic views about, like, he actually liked Trump more than Clinton, etc. But the timing of it was totally just to promote, you know, his next album, Yay. And a lot of people thought, like, with him wearing a Making America Great Again hat, which I wish he hadn't done, frankly. But if you wish that everybody wouldn't wear a Make America Great Again hat, then the one liberal musician that people love who does it is going to get exactly the attention that he did get. And so then, like, people thought that Yay, the EP, wouldn't do well because so many of his fans were going to walk away. No, he just got a ton of conservative fans out of it.
Yeah.
And pretty much most people still listened, and it still went number one.
I never liked Kanye really that much. I can't deny he's good at what he does.
That's interesting because musically I never liked Idea until kind of recently. But I just
felt like a personal attack.
But I love him as a person.
Like, you know, that's funny that you mentioned that.
I've been in his house.
Kanye must be your favorite artist or something.
Well, you came at me with the Kanye. Kanye is my number one, probably biggest hip hop musical inspiration.
Really?
I love Kanye West's music.
Okay. Well.
Yes.
You know.
But you don't have to. And I think he's done a lot of singles, especially where he dumbs down his style, and he's said a lot of really stupid things on record.
Yeah.
On music and in the public. But yeah, when you say you never liked Kanye, man, it's like
he just doesn't resonate with me that much. Like,
that's okay.
I don't listen to a ton of his songs, and there are some, like I said, he's really good at what he does. It's not even that I don't enjoy listening to Kanye, but it's not going to be what I have on repeat and I think it's really just what I look for in music. That's the difference. Like, I don't generally look to music for good time stuff. Mostly because I'm not the person who's on DJ when I'm having a good time. Like, it's someone else. So It's like, okay, I'll listen to your good time music.
Okay.
But when I'm alone and I'm listening to music, it's more like introspective and stuff. So that's just not what I go for, you know?
Yeah. The crazy thing, I want to talk about rap and genre and what's happy and what's not, okay? There are a lot of people who don't consume rap at all.
Right.
And they generally look at rap more monolithically, which is absurd. Mm-hmm. Rap is so diverse.
So many subgenres.
So many subgenres and moods. And like 80s rap, late 80s rap, Apache, Houdini. That stuff is really fucking happy rap.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of upbeat.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, how did the racists hate black people this much? They made such positive music. Even The Message, which is the first hip hop music that was like, we're really talking about the struggle in the hood. Mm-hmm. it was very happy sounding. That's my opinion. Because it was inspired by disco and funk and
is it weird that the more gangster the music got, the more white people got behind it?
Very interesting point. If you want to talk large scale about the commercialization of music, there is totally a benefit to institutions of being like, yeah, all black people do what MC Ren and Eazy-E do. You know, let's only promote that form of music. Interesting stuff.
It's super weird.
Well, I like the term reality rap a lot more than gangsta rap.
Okay.
That's something that people have used since its inception, but more recently nowadays, it's like gangsta rap versus reality rap. It's they're speaking directly about things that they're not allowed to speak about on in the media, and that's not necessarily all good stuff. I don't want to hear them talking about this really misogynistic content or glorifying every kind of drug that ultimately doesn't help people, but or at least in the way that they do it. But
it's an outlet, at least.
Yeah,
like everybody needs.
And like, let's talk about in the 80s, the crack being funneled into those communities intentionally by Ronald Reagan's administration. So it's like, what an amazing hustle to intentionally fuck up the framework of the community, fuck up the families with this terrible drug that was brought in, and then talk about these people just don't value their families and they don't. Where's the fatherhood? It's like,
right.
Fuck you, Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly used to rail about that a lot.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, my dad loves Bill O'Reilly.
Interesting.
I don't know if he still does, but yeah, my dad is all about that stuff. That's why I said there was a period of time where I wasn't living there. We weren't speaking really, but we reconnected after, and he's gotten slowly a little bit more realistic. But he may still listen to Bill O'Reilly. I don't know. But I love ripping on Bill because there's so much. Like the most obvious is, fuck it. We'll do it live. That's the classic.
Fucking
like everybody
sucks.
If you don't know about that, like where have you been? Because that's but
what does that mean to play us out? How do you not know? You work in broadcast. You don't know what it means to play us out. Everybody knows what that means.
So yeah, he's an idiot. But maybe he's
certainly
not.
Something.
Maybe he's a genius, and he just knows what riles people up and what people like.
With how big our country is, and frankly, I'm not sure that it's going to stay as one country for our whole lifetimes.
That's an interesting thought.
But for how big it is, I almost feel like once you get that large to where you're a talking head in front of that many people, you have so little control over like having your own opinion and your own feeling.
Yeah.
Wolf Blitzer, Anderson Cooper, Megyn Kelly, freaking all these people on CNN and Fox News. What's his name? Tucker Carlson. These people, like, they are much more than they are like human beings with their own authentic take on the world, which is what they're set up to be, and much more. They're much less of that, and they're a lot more like, this is exactly what the idea of an angry or objective journalist is, and let's put that in front of everybody. And it's very much corporately controlled.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're going for ratings, right? They're going for what's going to keep people on the show.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm trying to improve my craft. I try to make every episode less stupid than the previous one, because I'm on a constant journey of trying to be less stupid.
I like it.
So I'm not the best podcast host, but there can be weird pauses. There can be a lot of over talking when you're trying to fill the space and you don't really know what the fuck to talk about. But it's art. It's a film. It's an experience. And it's me knowing when finally to shut the fuck up. So can I ask you the last question?
It's been fun. Yeah.
What's one way we could all be less stupid?
Try. Just wake up and be ready to try.
That's really beautiful.
Thanks.
We're going to end pretty abruptly on that because I actually thought that was really poetic. Thanks, y'all. It's been fun. Peace.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, where can people find you, though?
Oh, yeah. Shit, I have a bunch of different. It's facebook.com/justjoey's music. Actually, no. We had talked about owning our platform. So go to inkescape.com. INKISCAPE.com. Mm-hmm. And then that's a collective I'm a part of. And we've got a bunch of stuff up there. I got a little artist page up there. You can find all my social media stuff.
Awesome. I am a cornball, but I'm really sincere. And we live in a world where it can be really hard to find the motivation and the drive, the self-worth to try.
Yeah.
Try to be less stupid. Mm-hmm. Just have that energy behind what we're doing instead of feeling like I'm just doing this because I have to, or I'm going through the motions of having to make enough money just to live. So we had that cool ending. That was a false ending, but I want to do the real ending now that people know where to find you. You should check out World is Home on Spotify or wherever. Justjoey, all one word, Justgoey. Mm-hmm. But your real name is, say it?
Joey.
Last name?
Yaquinto.
Okay. That's what I thought. We just met today. It's been a real pleasure.
It has.
Take it easy.
You too.